verdict. Signed by the forelady, 3/2/23. Docket number 2022-GS-15-00593, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions, the July term of 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the forelady. Date 3/2/23.
Okay, I tell you, I saw a look on that face, a little wobbly there in my mind, ashen, and I personally thought he was going to go down. But, you know, what do I know? Gigi McKelvey is our correspondent out there for the Law and Crime Network, having done a great job with Ann Jeanette. Gigi, you were there. What was the tension like? I felt like it was cut through a knife over here all the way in studio in New York. Talk to me about it. And am I right? Was he getting wobbly? He looked shaky up there.
Yeah, and I have to say, just as we were waiting on family to get there and for everybody to get seated, he looked very jerky from behind. You could just tell he was very nervous. There was a FaceTime there at the defense table. I don't know with who. We heard it. We couldn't see specifically who it was. John Marvin was not in attendance. It was his sister, Lynn, her husband, Buster, and his girlfriend. It was just so tense. Lots of nerves in that family. They just looked very uneasy. Buster very stoic. And then when it was read that he was guilty on all counts, when they cuffed him and he turned around, Alec got very, very emotional, red-faced, teary-eyed, looked directly at Buster and said, "It's okay. I love you." And Buster looked down and was fighting back tears. It was very emotional in there, very tense. The family, Buster was rubbing his girlfriend's shoulder at times. She was kind of looking up at him, especially after that guilty verdict every now and then. Just very tense in that courtroom. We kind of thought it was going to be a verdict. We didn't know for sure, but there was so much more security than normal in there. There were officers posted behind the family all along every door, which we knew was different. So it became clear really quickly we were here for a verdict.
Yeah, Gigi, I mean, listen, something that as Meyer and myself were waiting here to see if a verdict, we were absolutely convinced as trial lawyers that this was going to be either maybe a question or more likely, can we go home? But this verdict came out really fast. And when we heard about it, because you guys were the first ones to be reporting that out, we were like, wow, somebody lost big time. And we suspected it was the defendant. Were you guys shocked down there too, how fast this went?
Not really, to be honest. I mean, they've sat here for 6 weeks. I didn't think that they would take a week or even tomorrow. So a lot of us down here really thought maybe by the end of the day today, we would have a verdict. We just kind of had a feeling. The jury's been looking really tired this past week, and it's been a long marathon. And I think they were just ready. They've heard it. I don't think there was really much to discuss unless you had somebody that was holding out. But they did do some work in there. They requested the TV monitor to watch some videos. So I think maybe they just took a moment to look over something, maybe one or more questioned. But man, that was a quick verdict. And as soon as when the officer came in and told us there will be no reaction when the verdict is read, that was the first time we knew for sure it was a verdict. And then we all kind of looked. And at the same time, he made very clear if there was any reaction from the public, we would be escorted out really quickly. Yeah,
you know, I think this judge handled this courtroom extremely well, very professionally. The lawyers were very professional. We could argue about little things here and there. Everybody could talk about something in trial. I thought this was a really fair fight, and it was a very, very sophisticated presentation. The judge kept great control of the courtroom. But let me ask you, when you're there and that verdict is coming out, did you tend to see any more or less of a reaction from one side or the other? In other words, did you see defense attorneys that were nervous?
Everybody looked nervous. I have to say the SLED agents, every one of them looked like they had been in the sun for 8 solid hours, red-faced, pacing a little bit, just kind of nervous chatter. And you could hear a pin drop when that verdict was read. So I think that there were nerves on all sides. You could just see it. It was very palpable. You could almost cut it with a knife in there.
Okay, and we have a minute left, but when actually the verdict was read, were there any eventual sighs of relaxation or outbursts or anybody saying anything shortly after that?
Not a word, not a sound. It was very quiet. I think that even though most people expected this verdict, just to hear guilty after 6 long weeks at a trial, which was supposed to be 3 weeks, it's kind of like, wow, we're here and it's over. And so now we know sentencing is tomorrow morning at 9:30, which that got a few sighs out of the courtroom. But otherwise, when that verdict was read, no, you could hear a pin drop.
Yeah, I got to tell you something that surprised me, GG's. You got the verdict tomorrow. They're going to be going right into the sentencing. You have done an amazing job, the whole team down there. You guys came out in front of this right from the beginning, got us ready to be able to do this cover. So thank you, GG. And that is going to be up for us right now. We're going to take a quick commercial, come back on the other end, and have more of this fascinating verdict. Please stay with us.
Okay, I am just in shock.
Find it, try it, paint it.
I never expected this today. I was in the thrift store and got a message from Samantha saying the verdict's here. Hi, Holly Golightly. Yeah. So I'm going. No, wait. Have they read the verdict, or are we just assuming it's guilty because it was so quick? Because I was sure that OJ was going to be guilty when they came back that quick, and they did the exact opposite. Now, speaking of OJ, I've got a really funny video to show you here. Let me pull it up. The person I had an appointment with is big into true crime, and so we spent most of the time talking true crime rather than what we were supposed to be talking about. So let's see. Okay, let's see. Do we have a commercial break first? Okay, let's get this set up. Nope. Okay, let's.
And
StreamYard. Okay. I'm going to turn down the Law and Crime because this was something I watched with my friend, which my appointment was with. So here we go.
Twitter world is me, yours truly. Well, a whole lot of people asking me what I think about this Alex Murdaugh trial. I don't know why they think I'm an expert on it, but I got to admit, when he took the stand, a guy who's an habitual liar, I did watch when the trial first started. I watched him take the stand, and I thought it was probably a mistake because the guy is an admitted liar, and it's hard for me to think he can be on the stand 5, 6, 7, 8 days without lying. Question is, what did he lie about? But lying and stealing money is a little different than murder. I realized in watching them testify what he was doing. He was just trying to relate to 1 or 2 of those jurors that he was a good old boy. He was one of them. And I'm not sure he didn't succeed in doing that. I am not qualified to really say if the guy did it or he didn't do it. If a juror missed an hour of testimony, they no longer qualified. I've missed days that I haven't watched this. But from what I've seen, do I think it's more likely that he did it? Yes. But more likely equals reasonable doubt.
Yes, I saw that, and we were just howling. That's before the verdict came down. So, okay, let's go back and see. Let's see, what can we press conference after the verdict? Okay, let's take a look at that. Let's see. trying to see where they actually start the thing. I'm going to shrink it for a second. Let's go a little further. A little further.
2, 3, 4, 5. Justice is coming.
Okay, looks like you're getting closer to being ready.
Justice here.
I assume this really is a press conference. Okay, here we go. Let's share it. Okay.
Y'all be patient. There's a lot of us coming out. How are we on the mic check? Thumbs up. Thank you. Got our team out here. Wow. What a great day for the people of South Carolina. I want to thank every one of you for being here tonight. There's a lot of emotion here tonight at this courthouse. A lot of a year and a half, nearly 2 years of blood, sweat, and tears, it feels like. A lot of hard work from so many people. So if you will just bear with me, there's there's a lot of people I have to thank. But first, those of you who don't know, I'm Alan Wilson. I'm South Carolina's Attorney General, and I got the best staff of any Attorney General in the United States of America. I want to start by thanking our prosecution team. I want to tell you, I've been here for nearly 6 weeks with this team, living in a hotel, and it felt almost like being in a dorm environment in college. Late nights, cramming, studying, little sleep, away from our families, getting up early, getting here to the courthouse, working long hours, getting on each other's nerves at times. But it was all worth it. It was all worth it because we got to bring justice and be a voice for Maggie and Paul Murdaugh and bring justice for the people of South Carolina. I'd like to start real briefly by thanking our team. First, excuse me, put my glasses on. Our chief prosecutor, I tell you, I appointed Creighton Waters to be the chief prosecutor of this case nearly a year and a half ago. And I want to say I'm pretty brilliant because I picked the right guy. And I want to say thank you to Creighton Waters. Creighton, you did a fantastic job. I don't think there's another attorney in the state of South Carolina that led this Herculean effort. But Creighton will be the first to tell you he didn't do it alone because he had a team of people. I want to first thank Don Zelinka, who is actually Creighton's boss. He is the Deputy Attorney General, been in the Attorney General's office for over 40 years. Sitting here to my immediate left, Don Zelinka, thank you so much. John Metters, many of you got to see him do the closing argument today. John, thank you. You've been a phenomenal add to our team. I'm going to go quickly through the names, but as I read the names, please raise your hand. You know Creighton, you saw Don, and you see John. David Fernandez, John Conrad, Johnny James, Savannah Gow, Ozzie Toledo,
Yes.
Shane Aceto,
Yes.
Carly Jewell,
Yes.
Carson Burney,
Yes.
Danielle Colon,
Yes.
and our victims advocate, Trisha Allen.
Yes.
I also want to say thank you to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Mark Keel assigned some amazing men and women. And when I say it was an agency-wide effort on behalf of SLED, I can't underscore that part enough. Every time I called Chief Keel, every time I reached out to the lead agents, every time Creighton was asking me, hey, General, we need something from SLED, we would reach out to SLED, and they were there. They busted their butts. I can't begin to list every agent, and some can't be listed for obvious reasons. Some are standing up here tonight. I told them I wasn't going to mention their names, but we would not be here if it wasn't for SLED. And I want to thank Mark Keel and his team and all of the men and women across the entire state law enforcement division for what they did to make tonight a possibility.
Amen.
I also want to thank the FBI and the Secret Service, our federal partners. We had to utilize many of their assets and resources. We couldn't do all the things that we did without our federal partners. We had a lot of local partners. We had the Colleton County Sheriff's Department, Buddy Hill, Sheriff Hill and his team. providing the security. They did a phenomenal job, and they were there. They were the first responders the night on June 7th, 2021, when Maggie and Paul were butchered brutally. They were the first responders, and they were the first ones to be there. The Charleston County Sheriff's Office, the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Office were instrumental in supporting our investigative efforts. You all know Kenny Kinsey, our chief crime scene expert, was with the Orangeburg Sheriff's Office. I also want to thank the city of Walterboro. I think the mayor is here somewhere, and the police department. They provided security. Thank you. This whole community has embraced our entire team, and I cannot thank you enough. We've all been away from our families, 2 hours away from our families for the past 2 months. And it's this community that made us. We would walk into restaurants and people would come up and thank us. You know, you don't have any idea how good that makes people feel when they're under an incredible amount of stress, an incredible amount of scrutiny. And this community really embraced us. I want to thank the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill, and her entire team and their staff. I don't know. I call her Becky Booth. That's her nickname. But Madam Clerk, wherever you are tonight. I'm sorry. That's my pet name for her. But I want to thank you, Madam Clerk, for you, the entire team, the bailiffs, the court security, the staff here. There was no role that was too small that they weren't willing to do for us. The security team here, it was a Herculean effort by everybody, and I can't thank enough people. I don't know if I mentioned the bailiffs, but I want to thank them. And there's another group of people who you don't know who they are, but that's the jurors. And not just the jurors, but the alternates, the ones who didn't even get to serve to the very end, but people who were taken away from their families. I want to thank the families of our jurors who sat here every single day for what seemed like long amounts of tedious, monotonous information and evidence. Sometimes people didn't know what it meant. They didn't understand it. And they had to sit there and process it and hear it over and over and over again. And I want to thank these nameless jurors whose identities have been protected. They may make their identities available to all of you at some point, but they sat there and they delivered justice tonight. And I want to thank them for their role in this process. Amen. You know, Winston Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government except for every other kind. I kind of want to adopt that and say we may have the worst criminal justice system in the world, but it's better than every other kind that there is. And our criminal justice system worked tonight. It gave a voice to Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, who were brutally mowed down and murdered on the night of June 7th, 2021 by someone that they loved and someone that they trusted. And they couldn't be here to testify for themselves tonight. Their testimony came through the evidence and the information that was gathered by the men and women of the agencies I've just mentioned. It came from the testimony of the agents and the investigators and the attorneys and the folks in our staff who were able to get it to the court record. And so I want to say tonight, their voice was heard tonight and justice was brought for them. We can't bring them back, but we can bring them justice. Amen. Amen. I started off my remarks by saying it is a good day in South Carolina. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Today's verdict proves that no one, no matter who you are in society, is above the law. Amen. Thank you. A lot of people doubted that this process would work, and hopefully, for those who did doubt the process, hopefully we have instilled and put a little bit of faith back into you and your lives as you view this process as it unfolds. I'm proud of this team. I'm proud of the men and women standing behind me tonight. And there's been a lot of emotion. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I saw firsthand for the last 5 or 6 weeks the countless nights where you were up beyond midnight and you were getting up before dawn, not eating. I was watching Nancy Grace the other night and I heard her call Creighton pale and gaunt because Creighton wasn't eating and sleeping. He really wasn't, folks. I'm serious. You know, we would have to bring in kind bars and things to eat during breaks. But Creighton, Herculean effort, my friend. And I am truly honored to have you on our team. Thank you for being a great leader and a great chief prosecutor. And I would like to invite you to come up here and make some remarks for the folks here tonight.
Thanks, everybody. And I'll start by thanking this guy who's given me and all these folks behind us opportunities to do justice, which is what we want to do with our careers. It is very tough and demanding, but it's rewarding for moments like these. The general stole a lot of my lines, but I also want to thank the jurors for their long and arduous service. And we had no doubt that if we had a chance to present our case in a court of law, that they would see through the one last con that Alec Murdaugh was trying to pull. And they did, and we're so grateful for that. I get to lead the state grand jury section in the Attorney General's office. This particular case is not a state grand jury case. There are other indictments at our state grand jury. But the one thing about that is that I have an amazing team. And I want to be clear, this was a team effort. Y'all saw all of these folks behind me doing amazing work. And I can't be prouder of a team in my life. We called this our Super Bowl, and not because of the media attention, but just because of the effort that we knew that we would have to put into this. And we didn't really get to watch much of the Super Bowl that went on because when we arrived, I think it was winter and it feels like spring now. But every single member of this team, every single member of the state grand jury staff, what we do well is work together as a team in complex investigations, and who we work with is my partners at SLED. And I can't thank them enough as well, because we're used to working on these complex cases and working together. And I'm not leaving out Sheriff Hill and the Colleton County Sheriff's Office and our federal partners in Orangeburg and Charleston Sheriff's Office and all the other agencies that have worked on this case. I also want to thank Miss Becky, if she's still up there, because she's been amazing. The clerk staff has been amazing. The court staff has been amazing. The bailiffs have been amazing. And again, I also want to thank this community who really has embraced us and has been so great to us and made us able to survive this process that has been long and arduous. And I have been sleeping. And I have been eating more than Kind bars every now and then. But, and I'm sure that's a nice plug for Kind. But anyway, it really has been a great process. We will have sentencing tomorrow. Obviously, we're not going to comment on sentencing because that's still pending. But justice was done today. It doesn't matter who your family is. It doesn't matter how much money you have or people think you have. It doesn't matter what you think, how prominent you are. If you do wrong, if you break the law, if you murder, then justice will be done in South Carolina. And I think South Carolina has shown to the nation and the world how a process can work and work well. Thank y'all.
And also, I want to thank Creighton. I told Creighton, I said, Creighton, I'm going to come down and I'm going to be just a staff attorney. I know I'm your boss. I'm your boss's boss's boss, but I said I'm going to come down and I'm going to help. And I said I'm going to follow instruction. And I hope I was true to my word. This past weekend, I said, what can I do to help? I said, I'm willing to take a witness if it'll help. He said, actually, it would. So he let an old prosecutor dust off his cleats and get back in the game and to help the team out. And
I got to be the boss of the boss for a while.
Yeah, don't get used to it. No, but in all seriousness, I'm proud of the decisions that I made in putting the people behind me and to the left and right of me in charge of this case. And I was honored to be part of this team. Just another member, just another worker bee in the trenches trying to bring justice to the people of this state and to bring justice to the people who couldn't be here tonight because they were brutally murdered by someone they trusted. Now, with that being said, I know a lot of people want to talk to us. A lot of people want to talk to some of the attorneys and the support staff and the agents, investigators here tonight. Some of you want to talk to me and others. We're going to make ourselves available to you. But like Mr. Waters just said, tomorrow there's a sentencing hearing, and we don't want to get out in front of our skis. And plus, I'm starting to feel the rain come down. But I promise you, we're going to make ourselves available to talk to members of the media, to talk to all of you out there that have questions. We'll answer any questions that we ethically can. We hope you'll continue to be patient with us as we finish this process tomorrow. Again, we're going to go back and get a good night sleep tonight. But again, thank you. I'm going to also, one last group that we didn't thank, the media. You all, I know a lot of people in this, polarizing world we live in, a lot of people take shots at the media, but the media was incredibly respectful. You were so good, not just to us, but listen, to the families of the victims, okay? I know this is an awkward situation, but, you protected the identities of people and, you protected the process. And I want to thank you for your part in this and telling the stories, educating the public on what's going on out there. So now I'm going to stop speaking as an attorney general, and I'm going to close as a father and as a husband to say that when you go home tonight, hug your loved ones, hug your spouse, hug your children, because this case reminds us of anything that you can't take for granted that people in your family are always going to be there. And right now, when I get home tomorrow, I'm going to hug mine, and I hope you hug yours. But thank you again. Thank you for your prayers. Yes, sir. Thank you for your prayers. You came and prayed for me. I see a lot of people come and say we're praying for you. We appreciate your prayers. Thank you all so much. And this is going to conclude this press conference. We look forward to talking to all of you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Wow, that was fun. Okay, let's see. I've got another clip here. Let's see. Let me get it set up. Okay, share this tab.
Surprise here in terms of the verdict, Ashley, especially after only 3 hours. But as you watch the emotion from Alex Murdaugh as the verdict was read, and then you saw his son Buster react to it as well, what went through your mind?
I wasn't so struck by their reaction. I think if I were found of a double murder, I'd be kind of stunned. But I will say I am shocked at this verdict, Leland. You might not be because the deliberation was only 3 hours, but I lived through OJ, whose deliberation was under 4 hours after 9 months of trial, and that was an acquittal. So even though I heard this early verdict, I still thought they could easily have found him not guilty. It only takes one round around the table, right? That's usually what a jury does when they go back and they start deliberating for the first time. There's no manual. They're never told exactly what to do, but they kind of figure it out on their own. But it sounds to me like they went one round around the table, probably had a unanimous verdict, and then just kind of went over each person's thoughts about that just to make sure that they were clear. But I'm still stunned by this. I have to admit, I thought there was plenty of reasonable doubt. And I thought there was good evidence. Don't get me wrong, but I thought there was a lot of reasonable doubt.
Yeah, I'm often reminded of the admonition to never debate a verdict because you just never know what a jury's going to do, and they are the end-all, be-all say. Once the jury is deliberated and delivered their verdict, that's it. You see the seal of the state of South Carolina. That's the live picture from the courtroom right now. Going back to what Brian talked about the sort of so many tentacles of this case. You've got mystery, you've got the forensics, you've got the family, you've got the finances, you've got this massive fall from grace of the Murdaugh family. Is this one of these cases that goes down in infamy, almost like OJ, that continues to be discussed, that we're going to get even more Netflix specials and Hulu specials and everything else out of?
You know, it's funny you should ask that. One of the things I was thinking about as I was watching Dick Harpootlian throughout this trial was his down-home, Southern, folksy manner, right? And I thought, boy, have I ever seen a lot of trials where juries just eat that up. It's their local homeboy, and they love that, and they feel a kinship to that kind of performance. Creighton Waters wasn't that way. He was more matter of fact. He was kind of brusque. And it makes me wonder if juries are kind of changing. You know, don't feed me a line of, personality, just give me the goods. Because Creighton Waters gave a lot of goods, right? The only thing I'm shocked about is that he just didn't, he had to take a massive leap over the chasm, Leland, of the killing. Why would a guy like this do it, right? Sure, he was there and lied about it and drove fast and his phone was crazy and there was lots of steps and it was a family gun, all that stuff. But again, it was really hard to wrap my head around why a guy who was in love with his wife, even Her sister, she's got a dog in the fight. She said so. Loving relationship. Never had a crossword that anyone could ever suggest with his son or his wife or his family. Why would someone like that just do this? And that's what Creighton Waters did not get over. But apparently this jury made the leap just fine.
What do you make of all of the crimes he admitted to, the millions of dollars in theft, the lying to his friends, to his family, to his law partners, the addiction to drugs and everything else? Brian talked a little bit about trying to redeem the family name in some way by being found not guilty, if he could have been found not guilty of these murders. But once you've admitted to that, once you've admitted to taking advantage of this community that you had such huge power in, we're waiting just so you understand, this is where the defense and prosecutors will walk out to if they're going to address the media. So if they speak, we'll obviously bring it to you as it happens. But what do you make now of what happens in this community that has been so hurt by this family, in particular by Alex Murdaugh? And obviously now there's a lot of questions about what else this family did.
Look, I think there'll be a lot of relief. If you scour social media, it's pretty vitriolic towards Alex Murdaugh. Much of it having to do with the kinds of victims that he ripped off, right? You rip off little girls who lost their mom and their brother. You rip off a quadriplegic. You rip off your own housekeeper's kids. I mean, there's a special place in hell for people who are that deceitful and nasty, right? There's almost malice in that, if you ask me. But this is a different case, right? And maybe a lot of people who are on the fence in this community thinking, look, he's a bad guy, he's a thief, he's a drug addict, but he's a thief, but he's not a killer necessarily. I think those people may find solace in the fact that the sentence will be fairly similar. The only thing is that with murder, you're not getting out, right? It's a minimum of 30, probably life. And with the financial crimes, there would have been an opportunity more likely for some kind of an earlier parole. And he's 54 years old. So a 30-year sentence is god darn near life, you know?
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider.
Okay, let's see. I had another one. Let's see. Okay, wait, I've got this messed up a bit. Let's go back to regular size. Okay, we are sharing. Okay. He does not look happy. I think we're waiting for the jury to come in. You've all seen it. I saw a very brief clip of it, so he's definitely looking worried. Everybody's looking at the jury box, just waiting for him to come in. Oh, we need a lip reader.
Thank you. Madam Froley, if you'll stand for me. Have you reached a verdict?
Hi, Sacred Serbian Solutions.
Unanimous. Yes, sir, it is. All right, if you will pass it up.
Welcome.
The clerk who will pass it to me. And you may be seated.
You're funny. Oh boy.
Defendant will rise. Madam Clerk, you may publish the verdict, starting with the back, not with the, let's see, tell you again. Starting with the back, flipping them over one by one. State of South Carolina versus.
Docket number 2022 GS 15-00592, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions in the term of 2022, July, the State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant, indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Okay. Guilty verdict, signed by the forelady, 3/2/23. Docket number 2022 GS 15-00593, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions, the July term of 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant, indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116, verdict guilty, signed by the forelady, date 3/2/23. Docket number 2022 GS 15-00595, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant, indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, SC Code -16-23-0490, CDR Code 0549, verdict guilty, signed by the foreperson of the jury, date 3/2/23. Docket number 2022 GS 15-00594, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant, indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, SC Code 16-23-0490, CDR Code 0549, verdict guilty, signed by the foreperson of the jury, 3/2/23.
Thank you. Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is the verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hands. All right, thank you. Any individual polling requested? Madam Clerk, you'll need to individually poll the jury according to their juror numbers.
Number 193. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 254.
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 326. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 530. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 544.
Yes.
Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 572. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 578. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 589. Was this your verdict? Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 630. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 729. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 826. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 864, was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, the jury has been polled.
Thank you. The jury has been polled and the verdict is a unanimous verdict. If you will bring the alternate juror out and have her have a seat in the audience, please.
Yeah, gotta thank the alternate.
You can stand there or you can sit back there, whatever you prefer. Okay. Are there any post-trial motions?
From the state, Your Honor.
We would just renew our previously argued motions for directed verdict, and at this, on the grounds, on those grounds, we would make a motion for a mistrial to set aside.
Oh, can you ask
United
for a
States
mistrial
response.
after the verdict is
Based on the
read?
previous arguments, we would submit that the case properly went to the jury and.
Hi,
verdicts
Badger.
proper, and would rely on those arguments.
We've been here now 28 days, first few days of jury selection and the remainder receiving testimony, an overwhelming amount of testimony and evidence that was presented to the jury for the jury's consideration. As I indicated to the jury during the jury charge or the charge on the law, that this was a matter solely for the jury to determine. The court found at the end of the state's case that there's sufficient evidence to find the defendant guilty if the evidence was believed by the jury. Likewise, at the end of the defense's case, when the motion was renewed, the court found that the evidence was sufficient for the jury to find the defendant guilty. The jury has now considered the evidence for a significant period of time, and the evidence of guilt is overwhelming, and I deny the motion. Mr. Murdaugh, you now having been found guilty of 2 counts of murder involving your wife and your son, 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. The burden now comes upon the court to impose a sentence. Given the lateness of the hour and the victim's rights that must be taken into consideration and complied with under the Victim's Bill of Rights, and consider what I would anticipate to be a number of people who might have something to say regarding sentencing, we will defer sentencing to a later date. Of course, the minimum sentence for murder is 30 years. The maximum sentence is life imprisonment. As to each count, and on the weapons charge, the sentence is up to 5 years. 5 years, which has to be concurrent if a life sentence is imposed. When would you all like to reconvene for sentencing? I would like to give everyone an adequate opportunity to prepare for it.
State will be ready at 9:30 in the morning, Your Honor.
You can do it at 9:30 tomorrow morning also.
All right, the defendant is remanded to the custody of the Colleton County Sheriff's Department. And he may be taken away.
They've got cuffs on them. Oh, they just shoved the jurors. I guess they're no longer jurors at this point.
Madam Foley and members of the jury, I want to thank you on behalf of the citizens of the state of South Carolina and your fellow citizens of Colleton County. You did not volunteer for this service. You were called upon by being summoned to appear, and Providence have brought you to this moment in time and these weeks in time. I know that all of you have been here at great sacrifice, particularly the juror whose job was on the line until a miracle happened, I guess, that allowed him to be able to leave rather than to stay rather than leave after 2 or 3 weeks. But I want to thank each one of you all individually and collectively. It's not often that you're called upon to sit in judgment of the actions of your fellow man, but you all responded and gave due consideration to the evidence. I will make no comment now as to the extent or the overwhelming nature of the evidence, but certainly the verdict that you've reached is supported by the evidence, circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, all of the evidence pointing to only one conclusion. That's the conclusion that you all reached. So I applaud you all for, as a group and as a unit and individually, evaluating the evidence and coming to a proper conclusion as you saw the law, as you saw the facts. Now that you've served for the next year, you're not eligible to serve again. Now, of course, many people never get called upon. You're not eligible for the next year, and for 2 additional years, you can be exempted from service because no person is required to serve on jury duty in this court more often than once every 3 years. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, we will reconvene for sentencing. You all have no role in that because that's solely up to the judge, to me. You're welcome to come back if you want to and be a part of the audience if you like. I also want to thank the alternate juror who was locked away in a room by herself for these hours, who's hung in there during that period of time. I want to thank you as well. Madam Clerk, what do you have to tell your jurors?
Thank you for your service and what the judge said as well. And I think we can release them tonight and bring them back in the morning.
No, they're off jury duty. They can come back if they like. And you don't have to if you don't want to. Typically, I've seen jurors wanting to see the end result of a case once they've invested a lot into it. It's really an amazing thing with juries. Quite often, at the start of the case, jurors are really like, whoa, why am I here? I wish I wasn't selected. But as time passes and the jurors become invested and really committed to the case and committed to seeing it through, and are very disappointed when they are not able to see it to a conclusion. And then along the way of serving, you end up finding out quite a bit about our judicial system and learning quite a bit, well, about human nature for sure, but also about the presentation of evidence and hearing from expert witnesses and really learning a lot of things that you'll be able to take with you when you leave jury duty. And Madam Forelady, I don't know if you were hesitant initially or not, but you have stepped up to the plate and done a great job of leading the jury as well. And thank all of you. So the jury is dismissed. Now, one thing before you go, of course, we have invested a lot in maintaining the privacy of the jury, of each one of you. And you are free at this point to discuss the case with anyone. And given the high profile nature of the case, I'm certain that the many people in the media will probably want to communicate with you, but they have no means of contacting you because under order that I issued, the identity of the jurors must be kept private.
Kitty.
And if you decide that you want to speak with anyone, local, state, nationally, or internationally, that's your prerogative. However, should anyone harass you, please let me know and I will address those issues. If anyone through the somehow or another discover your identity and harass you, and rest assured I will intercede on your behalf. That having been said, you are free to communicate with whomever you might want to concerning the case from now on. So with that, thank you, and you all are free to go.
Judge, if I could have
Yes.
If I could have you go to the jury room, and I'm going to meet you back there for just a few minutes.
All right.
Gather your belongings.
And as is my practice, I'll speak with the foreperson before you leave the building after talking to them back there. Anything else?
Okay, let's see.
In recess till 9:30 tomorrow morning.
9:30. Okay, so I will set up a live stream so we can watch the sentencing. And let's see if there's any other good clips to take a look at real quick. Let's take a quick look. Jurors reach let's see, I thought it was jurors talking, but no. We've got another version of the press conference, but we don't need to see that again. But we might look for the verdict one more time. It looks like we still need to get a lot of pieces out there. Oh, here, this looks like a good one. Okay. Let me add it in. Okay.
There's cause for celebration for the prosecution tonight. We have Susan Constantine, jury consultant. We have defense attorney Sarah Azari. We have Eric Bland, lawyer for Murdaugh's deceased housekeeper, and professor emeritus at Harvard Law School, Alan Dershowitz. It's good to have each and all there. First of all, let's go to you, Eric Bland. This is obviously the verdict that you believed justice demanded all along. That victory lap is because it is not a given, no disrespect to South Carolina, but that when you have the privilege, the power, the money, the reach into a community and a case that gets complicated, if they had lost, there would have been a lot of fingers pointed at them as to why. Why do you feel right about this verdict, and what does it mean to your community?
Well, in the words of the jury in the play, The Producers, this jury found Alex Murdaugh incredibly guilty. They said that he's going to have to drink from the same cup of justice as all other murderers. And I'm not saying that, hey, I was right and everybody else on all these programs was wrong, because they're not. They had very good points that they made about the state's case. But there's a lot to be said about South Carolina soil and lawyering on South Carolina soil for years and years, and understanding our juries. And this was not going to be an O.J. Simpson jury. This was a jury that listened to the evidence and really understood that power and privilege was on trial as much as Alex Murdaugh. And this jury came back fast, certain, and clear. And I think you're going to see a certain sentence tomorrow by this judge that'll speak to the fact that Alex Murdaugh committed 2 heinous murders against family members with multiple weapons. And I would be surprised if he gets anything else other than life.
So you're thinking it's going to be life without parole. Susan, let me bring you in here. Welcome to the show, and thank you. A juror had been dismissed, allegedly for emails sent to people that suggested, hey, we're all on the same page. Then she gets dismissed. She gets replaced, that juror. And 3 hours of deliberation. Is it safe to say that she was telling the truth? Because a quick verdict doesn't necessarily mean prosecution or defense, but it certainly means passion and a strong degree of unanimity in the room.
Well, there had to be some sort of hidden communication with those jurors that she felt that way. So for her to say that everyone was feeling that he was guilty, there had to be some sort of eye contact, some sort of nonverbal communication that everybody was in sync with. But I have to share with you that the number one lying number is the number 3. How ironic that is that he was found guilty in 3 hours. I think this jury did get it right. I was very concerned, just like you, Chris. I wasn't sure, when they come back in a couple of hours, they can go one way or another. And for any jury consultant or anyone in my field to say that they know for sure, guilt or innocent, they're not really telling you the truth, because you just never know. But one thing that I think that got him was really the body of evidence, the demeanor evidence, the pushing of this emotion, this crying and the extreme crying. I think that the jury got it because he was a persuader, a con artist from the very beginning, and he was still trying to con the jurors right there in the courtroom.
Professor Dershowitz, you've been teaching me for decades now. I remember a long time ago I was covering a case. I said, well, Professor, the guy's a liar. We know that much. And you said it depends what you lie about. It's not just whether or not they're a liar. And here, do you believe the fatal flaw was that the jury heard him say, yeah, I didn't tell the truth about the timing and circumstances surrounding the actual murders? Do you think that carried the day?
Oh, of course. The hardest decision in this case, it's the hardest decision in almost any criminal case, was the decision to put him on the witness stand. It was a very, very risky move. Once a defendant testifies in front of the jury, the rest of the case takes a minor role. No matter what the evidence is, jurors look the defendant in the eye and they come to a quick conclusion. Is this defendant credible or isn't he? And that's what determines the outcome. In my experience, I've done over 30 of these cases. In my experience, when you have a defendant taking the witness stand, the other evidence plays a lesser role. Now, obviously, the other evidence can help jurors decide whether to believe the defendant or not. But that was the key decision. Very risky. We don't know. I have to tell you, jails are filled with defendants who blame their lawyers either for putting them on the stand or for not putting them on the stand. Because if you don't put them on the stand, then, you hear the tape recording, you see the circumstantial evidence. If you do put them on the stand, then everything turns on what the jury thinks of this particular defendant. And they put him on the stand, and the verdict did not surprise me. The quickness of the verdict did not surprise me. When defendants testify, jurors come to, very often, fairly quick decisions.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com.
Okay, let's see. Okay, well, I'm just hyper because I did not expect this to come down today, and I thought it was going to be a hung jury. At least I was afraid it would be. So I am extremely excited. Let's see. Let's watch the reading of the verdict again. Okay. Oh, yeah, they might as well lock him up for life because he's still got the other trial on the financial crimes, and there's 99 counts, and that's not going to go over with a jury of his peers because
Thank you. Madam Forlady, if you'll stand for me. Have you reached a verdict?
Yes, sir, we have.
Is it unanimous?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, if you will pass it up to the clerk, who will pass it to me. And you may be seated.
and I thought we'd have days of jury watch, at least 3 days, they were saying one day per week of the trial.
The defendant will rise. Madam Clerk, you may publish the verdict starting with the back, not with the, let's see, I'll tell you again. Starting with the back, flipping them over one by one. State of South Carolina versus.
Docket number 2022 GS 15-00592, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions in the term of 2022, July, the State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant, indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Okay. Guilty verdict. Signed by the forelady, 3/2/23. Docket number 2022-GS-15-00593, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions, the July term of 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the forelady. Date 3/2/23. Docket number 2022-GS-15-00595. The State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. SC Code -16-23-0490. CDR Code 0549. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the foreperson of the jury. Date 3/2/23. Docket number 2022 GS-15-00594. The State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. SC Code 16-23-0490. CDR Code 0549. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the foreperson of the jury, 3/2/23.
Thank you. Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is the verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hands. All right, thank you. Any individual polling requested? Madam Clerk, you'll need to individually poll the jury according to their juror numbers.
Number 193. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 254.
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 326. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 530. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 544.
Yes.
Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 572. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 578. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 589. Was this your verdict? Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 630. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 729. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 826. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 864. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, the jury has been polled.
Thank you. The jury has been polled and the verdict is a unanimous verdict. If you will bring the alternate juror out and have her have a seat in the audience, please. You can stand there or you can sit back there, whatever you prefer. Okay. Are there any post-trial motions?
State, Your Honor. We would just renew our previously argued motions for a directed verdict, and at this, on the grounds
On those grounds, we would make a motion for a mistrial and to set aside the
By the state, response.
Your Honor, based on the previous arguments, we would submit that the case properly went to the jury and the verdict is proper and would rely on those arguments.
We've been here now 28 days, first few days of jury selection and the remainder receiving testimony, an overwhelming amount of testimony and evidence that was presented to the jury for the jury's consideration. As I indicated to the jury during the jury charge, or the charge on the law, that this was a matter solely for the jury to determine. The court found at the end of the state's case that there's sufficient evidence to find the defendant guilty if the evidence was believed by the jury. Likewise, at the end of the defense's case, when the motion was renewed, the court found that the evidence was sufficient for the jury to find the defendant guilty. The jury has now considered the evidence for a significant period of time, and the evidence of guilt is overwhelming, and I deny the motion. Mr. Murdaugh, you now having been found guilty of 2 counts of murder involving your wife and your son, 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime, the burden now comes upon the court to impose a sentence. Given the lateness of the hour and the victim's rights that must be taken into consideration and complied with under the Victim's Bill of Rights, and consider what I would anticipate to be a number of people who might have something to say regarding sentencing, we will defer sentencing to a later date. Of course, the minimum sentence for murder is 30 years. The maximum sentence is life imprisonment as to each count. And on the weapons charge, the sentence is up to 5 years, or 5 years, which has to be concurrent if a life sentence is imposed. When would you all like to reconvene for sentencing? I would like to give everyone an adequate opportunity to prepare for it.
State will be ready at 9:30 in the morning, Your Honor.
We could do it at 9:30 tomorrow morning also.
All right, the defendant is remanded to the custody of the Colleton County Sheriff's Department. And he may be taken away. Madam Foley and members of the jury, I want to thank you on behalf of the citizens of the state of South Carolina and your fellow citizens of Colleton County. You did not volunteer for this service. You were called upon by being summoned to appear and Providence have brought you to this moment in time and these weeks in time. I know that all of you have been here at great sacrifice, particularly the juror whose job was on the line until a miracle happened, I guess, that allowed him to be able to leave rather than to stay at rather than leave after 2 or 3 weeks. But I want to thank each one of you all individually and collectively. It's not often that you're called upon to sit in judgment of the actions of your fellow man, but you all responded and it gave due consideration to the evidence. I will make no comment now as to the extent or the overwhelming nature of the evidence, but certainly the verdict that you've reached is supported by the evidence, circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, all of the evidence pointed to only one conclusion. That's the conclusion that you all reached. So I applaud you all for, as a group and as a unit and individually, evaluating the evidence and coming to a proper conclusion as you saw the law, as you saw the facts. Now that you've served for the next year, you're not eligible to serve again. Now, of course, many people never get called upon, but you're not eligible for the next year. And for 2 additional years, you can be exempted from service because no person is required to serve on jury duty in this court more often than once every 3 years. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, we will reconvene for sentencing. You all have no role in that because that's solely up to the judge, to me. You're welcome to come back if you want to and be a part of the audience if you like. I also want to thank the alternate juror who was locked away in a room by herself for these hours, who's hung in there during that period of time. I want to thank you as well. Madam Clerk, what do you have to tell your jurors?
What the judge said as well. And I think we can release them tonight and bring them back in the morning.
No, they're off jury duty. They can come back if they like. And you don't have to if you don't want to. Typically, I've seen jurors wanting to see the end result of a case once they've invested a lot into it. It's really an amazing thing with juries. Quite often, at the start of the case, jurors are really like, whoa, why am I here? I wish I wasn't selected. But as time passes and the jurors become invested and really committed to the case and committed to seeing it through, and are very disappointed when they are not able to see it to a conclusion. And then along the way of serving, you end up finding out quite a bit about our judicial system and learning quite a bit, well, about human nature for sure, but also about the presentation of evidence and hearing from expert witnesses and really learning a lot of things that you'll be able to take with you when you leave jury duty. And Madam Forelady, I don't know if you were hesitant initially or not, but you have stepped up to the plate and done a great job of leading the jury as well. And thank all of you. So the jury is dismissed. Now, one thing before you go, of course, we have invested a lot in maintaining the privacy of the jury, of each one of you. And You are free at this point to discuss the case with anyone. And given the high profile nature of the case, I'm certain that the many people in the media will probably want to communicate with you, but they have no means of contacting you because under order that I issued, the identity of the jurors must be kept private. And if you decide that you want to speak with anyone, local, state, nationally, or internationally, that's your prerogative. However, should anyone harass you, please let me know and I will address those issues. If anyone through the somehow or another discover your identity and harass you, and rest assured I will intercede on your behalf. That having been said, you are free to communicate with whomever you might want to concerning the case from now on. And so with that, thank you, and you all are free to go.
Okay, well, that was certainly unexpected. So I'll set up stream for the morning so that we can watch sentencing. We'll be hearing from Maggie's sister again, and there are probably some other family members. So need to take a short break before going over to watch the lab. So we'll see over there. Mike Adams was dead on as well. I'm not familiar with him. Let's see. Okay, well, this has been an exciting day, and certainly not what I expected. I thought maybe we'd get a verdict tomorrow if we were lucky, but certainly they were not going to sit around and twiddle their thumbs. So, okay, well, you go put your phone onto charge. Nick Fuentes. I'm not familiar with Nick Fuentes. Okay, well, I bid you good night, and maybe we'll see you over at the lab. Bye-bye.